In this episode, Sigmund goes to Heindl. I ride a 2019 Ural, my son falls in love with Janus, and a Cineprism 2 camera dies. We stayed at a hotel overnight. We're on our way to Heindl Engineering. We've got Sigmund on the trailer in tow. Had to park out on the nearest road. There was nowhere in the hotel, which was full when we got here, to actually pull the rig in. But nothing too glamorous, just a motorcycle on a flat trailer. I don't have an enclosed trailer with a ramp on it. I do have an enclosed trailer that the bike would fit on, but we've got barn doors on the back of it instead of a ramp, so I don't really have a way to haul it enclosed, and we don't haul it a lot anyway. Thankfully, we try to ride everywhere we go. But yeah, that's where it's at. Let me turn the camera around. While I'm inside at night, I like to put a cover over it just to keep people from, poking at it or readily knowing what it is. Let me turn that around. There it is on the trailer, and I guess a little added security. I just backed it up to a tractor trailer that was already sitting here. Figured it'd make it a lot harder to get the thing off. But we're here. We're just off of I-75. Should be at Heindl in the next probably 2.5 hours here. Here it is loaded. Took the cover off. It is filthy, dirty. It is a mess. We rode through Tennessee. It was heavy pouring rain the entire way from the time we hit Chattanooga until the time we hit Jellicoe. I guess that's how you pronounce it. But yeah, we'll be lucky if we averaged 45 mile an hour that entire time. So that's what took us extra time last night. Well, I got the Ural all checked in here. John and I went over it. He knows what to do. As I was backing it off the trailer, this came off in my hand, so just I don't want to pick on it too much. I mean, it's a pretty bike, but it just needs some TLC, and it's going to get it here. So I should be back picking it up within the next 2 to 3 weeks, and we'll see how great it turns out. But it's here. Well, here we are at Heindl Engineering. I'm going to be test riding this 2019 very yellow Gear Up here. Going to be taking it out. This is my very first experience touching a 2019. Getting this close to one. I'm looking forward to it. I don't believe it's going to change my desire to have a M70 Retro, but it may want me to put that engine in the 2017 M70 Retro. But we'll see. I'll just give you my impression as I go along here. I know there's a lot of walk-around videos, so I won't spend too much time on that. But yeah, you can see the engine does look a lot beefier on the top end. Does look a lot beefier on the top end. So we'll give this thing a test here and see how it does. Meanwhile, my son has actually found something he's interested in here. Doesn't have a sidecar on it, but I think he's trying to talk John into letting him test ride it. And that was it. You got to see me turn on the camera, and then it died. So it finally went back to Sena. They finally agreed to replace it under warranty. That camera is gone. Well, since my helmet cam died and you don't have any of my really illustrious, oration while I was riding. I was telling you all the details about the bike live and my first impressions as I rode out of the drive to go out on the road. And it is different. I'll try to recreate that for you without the engine noise and without all the sounds. You're actually riding along with my son, who is test riding the Janus behind me. And at this point, my impression was that the engine was well managed, and that continued to build as I went along. And let me see if I can try to explain what's going on here. I don't feel that this engine is a brand new, wonderfully changed thing. it's still the Ural engine. It still feels like the Ural engine. It sounds much like the Ural engine. It was a little quieter, less grumbly, which boils down to engine management. And my impression on this engine overall is that the engine management is far superior than on the 2018 all the way down to the 2014 fuel injection. It is simply superior, and that's what people are interpreting as more horsepower and better performance. It achieves this through a better engine management. The first thing that I noticed when I cranked the bike was it went straight to idle. It didn't hunt for idle. It didn't kind of do that hesitation thing it does when you first started and then find an idle. Once it achieves the idle, it's dead on idle. It's not kind of hunting around looking for idle and just idling along. The same thing when you accelerate. When I pull that throttle back and I get ready to go, it simply finds the best running position for that engine, and it's in agreement. That's another thing that I noticed immediately. If you take the 2017 engine and you put a little bit out of balance, then you can notice that the engine is not running well. It's kind of, well, it's not being managed as good. And you can feel that little bit of off balance once you know what you're looking for. And then when you balance it, you notice that most of that goes away. Well, with the 2017, my experience with 3 different 2017 engines is as you start to accelerate, you are constantly getting that feeling coming and going that maybe it's a little bit out of balance and then it's in balance, and it boils down to management of that engine. You can feel that the engine is not precise. It's not getting the fuel mixture exactly right 100% of the time. And on the 2017, if you blip the throttle, and those of you that have been riding the 17s and 18s will know what I'm talking about, you can actually induce a stumble. You can fiddle with the throttle to the point that the engine gets confused and it'll just kind of stumble or lose its way. The 2019 has none of that. It is dead on idle, it's dead on acceleration. It feels like every time you ask the engine to accelerate or slow down, every time you ask it to idle, it just does it. It doesn't think about it, it doesn't hunt for it, it doesn't look around to see if it can find some fuel and some air to mix together. It just does it. And I believe that it is much improved on the engine management, the electronic side. I think it's Heindl. If I mispronounce that, I'm sorry. The new fuel injection is tremendous in managing that engine. So the other part of it, I think, is where the injectors are, just the physical construction of the engine, the new passages that are in it. So it is a dramatic improvement. Now, the bike itself is still a Ural. It still felt like a Ural. It rode like a Ural. You get the same feelings from it. You get kind of that drifting along the road feeling from it. You are not just getting a totally brand new concept of a sidecar motorcycle. It is the same thing, and that's good. It is still a Ural. You won't lose that feeling or the look. But remember, you still have the rubber donut in the drivetrain. It's still a 4-speed transmission. It's got all the same limitations that it had before. You're going to want to cruise around 60 to 65 at a maximum. Some people don't even like to cruise that high. But it is a far, far superior engine, and you know the end result is it is a vast improvement. I love the bike. I love the engine, and I think it would be very worthwhile for some of you, if you're thinking about upgrading, to go ahead and jump on the 2019. And if you are looking to buy completely new, then you definitely need to consider the 2019 over buying any of the older ones. Now, what's going on right here? We turned around because my son radioed up to me from the Janus that he's riding that there was a problem. The engine was making a really nasty rattling noise. and he had no idea what it was. He's just really concerned and limping this thing back home. Meanwhile, I'm still up there riding the Ural, speeding up and slowing down and doing my useless narration, because the camera, unknown to me, is dead, because the camera came on. It announced recording. It never said not recording. It never said, ooh, I've locked up again. So I thought the camera was running. But he limped on home. He stayed down around 40 mile an hour and limped back to the dealership there and pulled in. Now he's in my headset. He's really concerned. He's getting ready to get off, walk, and push this thing back because he's afraid the engine's going to blow apart. And then he pulls up. He calls John over. That's John there, and calls him over to come take a look at it. And I don't know if you can hear, but I'll let you just kind of watch this part and see what's going on.
Sound like a heat shield rattle.
Yeah.
Here. Gas cap.
Okay.
Try that.
That's better.
Gas cap.
Yeah.
I can see why you were concerned, though.
Yeah.
Somebody in the showroom must have went like this and looked in it and then not tightened it back up.
I tell you, I figured, you said it was cold natured. I figured for the first little bit, maybe it's just cold, warming up. But it just would not go away.
Okay, I got back from my ride. I don't know how much of that audio will survive, but I will re-narrate if I have to. Thought I'd take a moment walking around it, kind of showing you a few things that I haven't seen or heard commented on in other videos. One of them is, as my son puts it, it loses style points with the new valve cover. Yeah, okay. I don't think they're as classy or as pretty as the original valve cover design, but to each his own. I think they look good. You can still take them off and paint them a different color, I guess. But there is that. The other thing I noticed is the catalytic converter is much larger than the one on the 17s or 18s. Much larger catalytic converter. Bigger top end. I'll just get close and let you look around. Hopefully I'm getting what you want to look at. Like I said, if I had a 2017 or 2018 and I was thinking maybe I should trade and move up to this, I personally would wait. It is better, but putting extra money to get there if you just bought a 17 or an 18, I don't know. I would personally, I would wait. But if I had a 16 or earlier and I was ready to move up, I'm telling you, it's time. There's a big difference in it. And like I said in the video, if you can hear all that, I don't know if you're getting bad wind noise here, but it is still a Ural, which is I mean that in a good and maybe neutral way. I'm just saying that the characteristics of the bike are preserved. It still feels like a Ural when you're riding it. But at the same time, it still has some of the challenges that a Ural faces, like the drivetrain components. There is still that rubber donut in the drivetrain, and it not saying that's a horrible, bad thing, but that's got to be continually improved as the engineering moves on. You still have the 4-speed in the transmission. That's all there, and that's kind of what I'm saying. You've already got all this on your 2017 or 18. You've already got a pretty good engine usually on the 2017 or 18. I know some of them have issues, but there were a lot of improvements done for those, And, you know, by all means, if you've got the money and you're ready to do it, go for it. But if you're like I am, where you had to kind of watch your budget and you want to get the most bang for your buck, if you got a 17 or 18, I think you'll be okay to just enjoy the knowledge that there's something waiting for you and things are going to improve even more. Of course, we got the 2-wheel drive there. Yeah, and I don't mind. I'll get close. It's just kind of eye candy. Sometimes you see something and you just like, I wonder how much that has changed. There's the input to the final drive. This is the 2-wheel drive. There's sidecar output. Again, this is the gear up. Just giving you a view of everything. It really surprised me how much more room there is over here. I mean, I know I saw it and they said, hey, there's more room, but really, I try to be reserved with shifting because I don't want to come up and hit things. This feels much more open. It feels like my foot is just in a cavernous area in here. I wasn't touching anything else, and I can tell just by the fuel plug, you know, you're not kind of getting under to get to the transmission fuel plug. And that's, yeah. Get a view here. Go up in there. No real major changes there. No real nothing really major changed up in there. Yeah, you still got that tight air box. Yeah, you do have this bracket here for the cables. I don't know when that came out. That could be on the 2018s. Not sure. The other stuff looks pretty typical. Same design. You can definitely look and tell it has more oil capacity from the outside. The deeper sump. Again, just giving you a view here. The gear up, sidecar, side arm over here. That design. Yeah, these are supposed to be universal wheels, fit in all positions now. Give you a look at that. The spare tire looks the same as mine. I could be missing something, but these, you do have to deal with the rotor changes, but well, hopefully that's enough of a look for you there. I enjoyed the ride. I won't lie. There is a big difference there in just the management feeling of the engine. That's the biggest difference that I notice. I actually don't even notice the power. And what I think a lot of people are claiming as additional power really is just better engine management, to be honest. I don't think this engine can possibly have more than an extra 3 to 5 horsepower than the well-tuned 17 or 18 that's running well. I think what you're really noticing is the better engine management is what it comes down to. It's just really on the spot. There's no fluttering and hunting. There's none of the typical stuff. You ask it to do it and it does it. Feels, again, more managed, less jittery. I think I got a winner. Well, my son is interested in this Janus. What do you think?
That is something else.
You like it?
Oh yeah. It's like a stronger, better looking version of the Grom.
Okay, so some backstory for context. My son has a 1975 R75/6 that he loves to ride, but he likes to go on just short jaunts into town, which is maybe 8-9 miles away, ride it around and run quick errands. And that R75, it takes that thing 20-30 miles down the road just to warm up good. And he loves the bike. He's planning on keeping it, but he's looking for something that he can just dart around on. And he had been using my daughter's Grom for a while. He loved that thing. If he just needed to go dart and run an errand or something, he would grab it and go. But that got sold, and he's kind of missed out on having just a light, nimble bike to ride around on. So he had been looking at electric motorcycles, the Zeros or some of the other ones that are coming out. But we don't live, we figured it out. It's like the nearest charging station's 34 miles away. And these things have a range of about 50 miles or so, unless you really get ridiculously expensive. And they take such a long time to charge at the house. It's just not practical for us to have a electric motorcycle. So I think this will be a good choice for him. Yeah. I mean, I'm telling you, I would not go at this point in time, especially living where you live. I just would not go with an electric bike. I would get something like this that just has a beautifully classic look and runs well, nimble, good fuel mileage. You can get out and run with it.
You know that feeling of weightlessness you get when you go over the bumps?
It's even more with this.
It's a hardtail. So yeah, you get the full experience.
Yeah.
Ooh.
This you could see yourself jumping on and just going somewhere real light. That light feeling. The BMW you got is great, but
oh yeah,
you know, there's prep time, there's warm up time, the carbureted.
I was flicking this thing all over the place,
yeah,
riding around. Imagine the brakes were.
You mean from 1975 to 2019 they've improved the brakes?
Yeah, I'll say that stoppies are very possible now. When you grab a handful of front brake expecting a BMW. Oof.
Cool.
This is nice.